The 17th century was a time of profound change in Europe. The old order, dominated by Spain and the Holy Roman Empire, was giving way to new powers. England, France, and the Dutch Republic were all vying for supremacy. Control of trade routes and access to resources became paramount, leading to inevitable conflict. Mercantilism fueled the growth of powerful navies and merchant fleets. England and the Dutch Republic, both island nations with long maritime traditions, emerged as the leading maritime powers of the age. Their ships sailed the world, bringing back goods, resources, and wealth. The English East India Company and the Dutch East India Company became powerful symbols of their nation's maritime ambitions. Their success further fueled the rivalry between England and the Dutch Republic. Both England and the Dutch Republic experienced a surge in economic prosperity and global influence during the 17th century. The Dutch, known for their efficient shipbuilding and commercial acumen, had established a vast trading network. English merchants and policymakers increasingly viewed the Dutch as obstacles to their own ambitions. The English Parliament passed a series of navigation acts in the mid-17th century, aiming to restrict Dutch trade. These acts ignited tensions between the two nations, setting the stage for a clash of ambitions. The First Anglo-Dutch War, spanning from 1652 to 1654, marked the beginning of a series of fierce naval conflicts. Tensions over trade and colonial rivalry finally boiled over into open warfare. The flashpoint came with a series of naval incidents in the English Channel. In 1652, a Dutch fleet under Martin Tromp encountered an English fleet commanded by Robert Blake near Dover. The English demanded a salute to the English flag, but Tromp refused, leading to a brief engagement. This incident ignited the war, with both sides mobilizing their fleets for a full-scale conflict. The stakes were high, as control of the seas meant control of trade routes and resources. The First Anglo-Dutch War became a brutal test of naval strength and strategy. The early stages of the war saw a series of indecisive naval battles. The English, under admirals like Blake and George Ayscue, sought to blockade Dutch ports. The Dutch, led by admirals like Tromp and Witte de With, responded with aggressive tactics. One key early engagement was the Battle of Kentish in August 1652. The English fleet under Blake scored a significant victory, capturing several Dutch warships. However, the Dutch, known for their resilience, were far from defeated. The war reached a turning point with the Battle of Scheveningen in August 1653. This battle, one of the largest naval engagements of the 17th century, proved to be costly and indecisive. Both sides fought with ferocity, but neither could achieve a decisive victory. The battle marked the end of large-scale fighting in the First Anglo-Dutch War. In April 1654, they signed the Treaty of Westminster, ending the war. The treaty addressed some trade disputes, but did little to resolve underlying tensions. The seeds of future conflict had been sown. The First Anglo-Dutch War had significant implications for both nations. It demonstrated the rising naval power of England and the determination of the Dutch to defend their interests. Thousands of sailors perished, and the economic impact was felt on both sides. The Treaty of Westminster provided a brief respite from the fighting. However, it failed to address the fundamental issues driving the rivalry. Just over a decade after the First Anglo-Dutch War, rivalry reignited, leading to a second, more destructive conflict. The Treaty of Westminster had done little to quell underlying tensions. England, under Charles II, adopted an increasingly assertive foreign policy. Tensions escalated further in the early 1660s, with a series of naval clashes and colonial disputes. The English seized the Dutch colony of New Netherland in 1664, renaming it New York. This act of aggression infuriated the Dutch and set the stage for renewed conflict. In 1665, England declared war on the Dutch Republic, marking the beginning of the Second Anglo-Dutch War. The Second Anglo-Dutch War began with a series of naval battles in the English Channel. In June 1667, the Dutch launched a daring raid on the English fleet at anchor in the River Medway. A Dutch fleet sailed up the Medway, catching the English by surprise. The Dutch bombarded and captured several English warships, including the flagship HMS Royal Charles. The raid on the Medway exposed the vulnerabilities of the English fleet and dealt a severe blow to English morale. It demonstrated the audacity and naval skill of the Dutch. Following the raid on the Medway, the Dutch continued to assert their naval superiority. In June 1666, the 4 days battle pitted the Dutch fleet under de Ruyter against an English fleet. Despite suffering heavy losses, the Dutch emerged victorious, inflicting significant damage on the English fleet. Just 2 months later, in August 1666, the two fleets clashed again in the St. James's Day battle. The Dutch, employing innovative tactics and superior firepower, decisively defeated the English. The St. James's Day battle marked a high point in Dutch naval power. It solidified their control of the English Channel. The Dutch victories in the Second Anglo-Dutch War had a profound impact on the balance of power in Europe. England, once seen as an ascending maritime power, had been humbled. The Dutch had proven their naval superiority and secured their position as a major force. In July 1667, they signed the Treaty of Breda, formally ending the Second Anglo-Dutch War. The treaty reflected the shifting balance of power. The Dutch secured favorable trade agreements and retained control of vital spice trade routes. The rivalry between the two maritime powers remained, but the Second Anglo-Dutch War had demonstrated the limits of English ambition. The Third Anglo-Dutch War, erupting in 1672, marked a dangerous escalation in the rivalry. King Charles II of England, harboring resentment towards the Dutch, saw an opportunity to crush his maritime rival. In 1670, Charles II secretly entered into the Treaty of Dover with King Louis XIV of France. This pact promised English support for Louis XIV's ambitions in exchange for French assistance against the Dutch. The treaty set the stage for a surprise attack on the Dutch Republic. The Treaty of Dover ignited the Third Anglo-Dutch War and altered the balance of power in Europe. Louis XIV saw the Dutch Republic as a major obstacle to his plans. The Treaty of Dover provided Louis XIV with the opportunity to weaken the Dutch. With English support secured, Louis XIV launched a massive invasion of the Dutch Republic in 1672. The French army quickly overran several Dutch fortresses and advanced deep into Dutch territory. The Dutch faced a desperate struggle for survival. While the French army wreaked havoc on land, the Anglo-French fleet sought to establish naval dominance. In June 1672, the combined fleet encountered a Dutch fleet under Michiel de Ruyter at Solebay. The Battle of Solebay proved to be a ferocious and bloody encounter. The Dutch, though outnumbered, fought with tenacity, inflicting heavy losses on the Anglo-French fleet. The battle ended in a costly stalemate, demonstrating Dutch resilience and naval prowess. As the Dutch Republic faced its gravest crisis, a new leader emerged, William III of Orange. William, a young prince, was appointed stadtholder, the country's military and political leader. William, though only 22, possessed a keen intellect and a deep commitment to the survival of the Dutch Republic. He rallied the Dutch people, inspiring them to resist the Anglo-French invasion. William's leadership proved to be a turning point in the war. He reorganized the Dutch army, strengthened defenses, and skillfully employed diplomacy to forge new alliances. William's emergence marked the beginning of a new chapter in Anglo-Dutch relations. Under William III's leadership, the Dutch mounted a determined resistance. The Dutch employed ingenious tactics to halt the French advance, including flooding vast tracts of land. While the Dutch held firm on land, William skillfully navigated European diplomacy. He forged alliances with Spain and the Holy Roman Empire, shifting the balance of power. The tide of the war began to turn in the Dutch favor. Their resilience and William's diplomatic maneuvering began to yield results. The turning point in the naval war came in August 1673 with the Battle of the Texel. The Dutch fleet, commanded by Michiel de Ruyter, faced the combined might of the English and French fleets. De Ruyter skillfully exploited the wind and tides to his advantage. He divided his fleet into squadrons, outmaneuvering the larger Anglo-French force. The Battle of the Texel ended in a Dutch victory, securing Dutch waters. The victory boosted Dutch morale and demonstrated the continued strength of their navy. The Dutch victory at the Texel forced Charles II of England to reconsider his commitment to the war. Public opinion in England had turned against the conflict. In 1674, under pressure from Parliament, Charles II signed the Treaty of Westminster, ending English participation in the Third Anglo-Dutch War. The conflict had exacted a heavy toll on both sides, draining their treasuries and weakening their positions in Europe. The Fourth Anglo-Dutch War, spanning 1688 to 1689, unlike its predecessors, was less about direct confrontation between England and the Dutch Republic and more a consequence of broader European power dynamics. The conflict stemmed from the Glorious Revolution in England, which saw the deposition of the Catholic King James II and the ascension of his Protestant daughter Mary and her husband, William of Orange, to the English throne. The war, largely confined to naval skirmishes and colonial theaters, ended with the Treaty of Ryswick in 1697. The treaty formally recognized William III as King of England and ushered in a period of closer Anglo-Dutch cooperation, primarily driven by their shared opposition to French expansionism under Louis XIV. The Anglo-Dutch Wars, spanning over 4 decades of the 17th century, had a profound impact on the course of European history. The Anglo-Dutch Wars cast a long shadow over the Dutch Republic, marking a turning point in its fortunes. The once mighty maritime power, renowned for its economic prowess and naval superiority, began to experience a gradual decline. The wars had drained the Dutch treasury, placing immense strain on its finances and leading to a period of economic stagnation. While the Dutch remained a significant force in European trade, their dominance had been challenged. The wars had disrupted trade routes, damaged their merchant fleet, and eroded their competitive edge. Moreover, the constant threat of war and the need to maintain a strong military to counter English and French ambitions placed a heavy burden on the Dutch people. The wars had shifted the political landscape of Europe, with the Dutch Republic increasingly caught between the growing power of England and France. This precarious position forced the Dutch to navigate a complex web of alliances and rivalries, often at the expense of their own interests. In contrast to the Dutch experience, the Anglo-Dutch Wars, while costly and challenging, ultimately laid the foundation for Great Britain's emergence as a global power. The conflicts had forced England, later Great Britain, to invest heavily in its navy, recognizing that control of the seas was paramount to its ambitions. The Royal Navy, forged in the crucible of these wars, emerged as the most formidable naval force in the world, a testament to English shipbuilding, seamanship, and naval strategy. The English, later British, victory in the wars secured their control over vital trade routes, particularly in the Atlantic and the East Indies, paving the way for the expansion of their colonial empire. The vast wealth and resources extracted from their colonies fueled further economic growth and military expansion, propelling Great Britain towards its dominant position in the 18th and 19th centuries. The Anglo-Dutch Wars, though a distant chapter in history, offer valuable lessons for understanding the complexities of international relations and the enduring importance of sea power. The wars highlighted the volatile nature of power dynamics, illustrating how economic rivalry, political ambition, and shifting alliances can lead to conflict between even closely intertwined nations. The conflicts underscored the significance of naval power in shaping global affairs. Control of the seas, as demonstrated by the rise of the British Royal Navy, proved essential for projecting power, securing trade routes, and building empires. Moreover, the wars demonstrated the crucial role of adaptability and innovation in warfare. The Dutch, initially outmatched by English naval power, showcased their resilience by adopting new tactics, such as employing fire ships to devastating effect, and continuously improving their shipbuilding techniques. The Anglo-Dutch Wars serve as a reminder that even in an era defined by constant change, certain principles of international relations and the pursuit of power remain timeless. The Anglo-Dutch Wars, though marked by fierce competition and bloodshed, also left a legacy of innovation and progress. The intense rivalry between the two maritime powers fostered a period of remarkable technological advancement, particularly in shipbuilding and naval warfare. Both sides constantly sought to outmaneuver and overpower each other, leading to the development of new ship designs, more powerful cannons, and innovative sailing techniques. The wars also had a profound impact on naval strategy and tactics. Commanders on both sides, faced with the challenges of close-quarters combat and the need to control vital sea lanes, developed new formations, signaling systems, and strategies for engaging in naval warfare. The lessons learned during these conflicts shaped naval thinking for centuries to come, influencing the course of maritime history.